Yes, indeed. Good evening to all of our merry Marvelites. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk right here on Geekscape. So excited to welcome back to the show the one, the only Jeff Williams Jr. Jeff, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite to see the movie. It was great to hang out and catch up and also see a great movie at the same time.
Yeah, I was glad that you were able to make it, and glad that eventually traffic cooperated and you were able to you were able to make it. For people that don't know LA, it might seem like an easy thing to go from Culver City to Burbank, but it's not always, is it, Jeff?
No, it was 13 minutes an hour, or no, 13 miles, an hour and 30 minutes worth of a drive, and it was long. But no, but hey, we made it, and I think I drove longer than the actual movie, but hey, it was worth it. It was worth it.
It's a great point. It is an hour and 45 minutes, and that's kind of welcome after some of the superhero movies. And for our visual audience, you can see right now, there we are outside the theater with our three leading ladies, who, of course, we will spend this entire show talking about. Now, this episode that we're doing right now, people are seeing it for the first time. It's Friday. The movie's been out for 24 hours. So, this is for those of you who have seen it. This is not a spoiler free conversation.
Mm-mm.
And the biggest spoilers we're going to save for the end of the episode. We'll try to remind people periodically throughout that this is a spoiler filled zone. We're not doing a spoiler free zone, are we, Jeff?
No, we're spilling all the tea. We're talking about all the spoilers. We're breaking it all down, and I can't wait.
Yes, exactly. So it is very exciting. So let's talk a little bit about kind of expectations heading into this movie. I think anytime an MCU movie comes out right now, Variety seems to find an excuse to talk about all the problems that Marvel's having. You have people who I don't know. I think largely unfairly judged some of the trailers, and there was the expectation I think that a lot of people had that oh, this movie's not going to be very good. I didn't feel that way. I'm like, I think this movie's going to be fun. I'm not looking for anything crazy out of it. I just want to have some fun. And what were your thoughts before the movie, and maybe even did it change in the weeks leading up to it? Did you start to get nervous? What did you think, Jeff?
I never got nervous because I just like you, I was like, I'm just gonna have fun with the movie. I have no high expectations. I did not enjoy the first one, but I enjoyed the two additions that were coming into the second one, Tiana Parrish and Amanda Villani. Like I really enjoyed both their characters in both their respective TV shows, and I was excited to see them be in the film as well. And crazy enough, both their characters helped me love Brie Larson as well.
I think it's a great point. You and I were talking about it a little bit after the movie. We knew we were going to do this show, so save it for the air, as they say. However, it was my biggest takeaway. It's sort of she came off in the Captain Marvel movie as very cold, and I had talked to people who had seen that movie, and they had some trouble kind of caring about her because of the fact that she didn't remember her backstory. So we weren't able to be invested in her in the way we are with other characters. I think her appearance in the Avengers, in Endgame, I think went a long way. We got to see her interact with some people, but she comes off very likable in this because she just kind of has to be, and I think they do a good job at the beginning of this movie setting up the fact that she usually does work alone and she spends a lot of time by herself, and she even says that it's nice to have people around. It's
Mhm.
just there's a little bit of a learning curve, I guess, for Carol Danvers. And I think having her share the screen with the two of them definitely brought the best out of her. And how did you feel about the Ms. Marvel show? You know, because that was when we got to meet Aman Vellani as Kamala Khan, and you know, really setting up her supporting cast, her family, who we see a lot of in this movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I'm used to the CW superhero kind of popcornish, kind of corny, but also kind of like stuck in their high school ways. That's what this was, but in the best way possible. And I love that kind of jumping into the film. I love how they brought touches and kind of pulled touches and the best themes from the TV show into the movie, so you can really see the style and the feel of what her TV show is, and hopefully that just draws more people back to her TV show because it wasn't given that much love when it actually came out. They even put it in like a ABC on Disney, like on the actual networks for a little bit of a little run, trying to get some
Yeah.
more publicity. But still, it just never got as much love as it should. And I hope now, like especially with her role towards the end, that she'll get the love that she deserves.
Yeah, I think I talked to enough people about, well, all these shows, but that one in particular. There were you know, adults who felt a little put off by sort of the high school spin on it. It was a knock that I think people had on Hulu. The Hulu had the show Runaways, and there was also Cloak and Dagger on Freeform, and that, you know, some people had some trouble with. But it's like, if you watch it, you know, my complaint with Cloak and Dagger was the music, but it was also like the music was not trying to appeal to me. But I felt like I really liked Kamala Khan. I found her backstory to be interesting, and I think it translated very well into here. Getting to know Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, I think, helps a lot. But also, we clearly miss a few steps. There's stuff they didn't show us between that, you know, because it's like everybody she works with is like, oh boy, if we only knew somebody that had superpowers, you know, and she knows how to use them. She still
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a code name, which is kind of a funny running bit, but she she certainly knows how to use her powers for the most part, but not enough where she knew whether or not she could fly. You know, I thought it was kind of interesting, you know, that
Yeah.
Kamala is actually far more seasoned in using a lot of her powers because she saved Jersey City, you know.
Yeah, and I agree. It's like if you're hanging out with Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, and you're out there in space, you're not testing out your powers. You're not already planning this. But in the at the beginning, in her defense, she was like kind of using the buttons to push herself towards the wall to like touch her hands. So she never did fly in the beginning. So even
Yeah.
from the beginning, she never knew how to. But I'm like, I assume that was like from the start, but I guess not.
What I'll be interested in, and obviously we'll have a few conversations about this movie as time goes along. If I run into anyone that didn't watch either of these series, and do you feel completely lost sitting in here? Because I am familiar with the characters, obviously familiar with them before they were even on screen, but I felt like they did a decent enough job introducing them, giving you a backstory. You know, there's flashbacks reminding you that, hey, remember Maria's little girl in the first Captain Marvel? This is her. So it's almost like I think they do enough, you know, to tell
Mhm.
us. Was it something that you thought about when you were watching it, Jeff? Whether or not, like, oh, I wonder if people are going to be lost, because I feel like they go out of their way with the TV shows to make it so that, well, we want you to watch them, but if you don't, you're probably going to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like they just figured it out. Especially with Miss Marvel, she was really the start of the film and the heart of the film. So if you loved her family dynamic, you're just gonna want to go see the film. They pretty much explained how she got the powers. She kept saying, "My grandmother gave me these."
Yeah.
So it was a quick way of showing how she became who she was in a funny, lighthearted way, and then moving on and not having to like dig too deep into it. But if people want to, because they love the family dynamic, now they can kind of see what that means. So for her specifically, I think they did a great job. For Tiana Parrish, I think it did well. The Wix Hex was like it was a funny joke, but also like if you don't know what that is, you think she's like, is she joking? Is she serious? What is she talking? Like, it's kind of confusing. So I wish they did a little bit more on that side, but also, I mean, it was. I mean, I watched the show, so I know. So like, I just don't. I think they could have did better for Tiana Paris for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting if that becomes one of the complaints. If people are like, "Oh, I didn't know I had to watch all the shows," but I don't know. I think they do a good job sort of bringing it together. And we know from WandaVision that Monica has issues with Carol, and I think they get to it early enough in the movie. They let it hang over for a little bit, but then they do need to have it out. And I think it's interesting because one of the complaints of someone who may even live in the same house as I do was that they felt like Carol didn't come off human enough in the first Captain Marvel. And it's almost as though, and that's what I said to my wife after I got home. I was like, it's like they got your notes. They knew how to humanize her. They knew how to make her come across more likable, surround her with likable other characters. But the fact that she has this tremendous power, arguably at least one of the three most powerful beings in the MCU. Her and Wanda right up there, and I guess Thanos with the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the fact that she felt like she made a mistake and she had spent 30 years trying to make up for it, I think it makes her relatable in the sense of, yeah, for all that power, well, as Uncle Ben told us, comes great responsibility, but also there's accountability. It's like it doesn't matter that you have all that power. She still feels it, and I thought I thought that was interesting. I mean, this is a much. I mean, you can't relate to somebody with this kind of ability, but it makes her in a sense more relatable. But you can sympathize with her, and I feel like that was missing from the first Captain Marvel. And honestly, she's not the star of Endgame, I mean, so
Yeah.
she just shows up a few times. Did any of that come across for you, especially considering that earlier, Jeff, you said you weren't particularly fond of the first Captain Marvel?
Yeah, I totally agree with your family member that said that they just weren't interested and they didn't understand why we're supposed to care about Captain Marvel. And that's how I felt. I was like, we're just given this superhero, told that she's super powerful, not really given a backstory, just supposed to kind of guess and learn pieces of it. And and that's it. I didn't think it humanized her at all, but that's what this film exceeded in. And you mentioned with Tiana Parrish and Iman being like two likable people being on there, and then like seeing that she made a mistake with taking the AI and destroying the AI and trying to rebuild that for 30 years. Another thing that humanized her is being married to Prince Yan and doing that just as like a friendship thing because he needed help in that sense and being able to just deal with that family, be lighthearted and like play sing a song just to talk with the people and dance and everything like that. I thought that was really funny and like it just really brought her down to like a human and in a sense to like she can joke and just do the normal things and be a friend to somebody.
But yeah, nothing humanizes a character more than watching them forced to sing, And I love her initial explanation is like, I helped him out with a legal problem, and then it's like, oh wait, you're married to him, and like, well, we're we're really good friends, and yeah, I mean, I thought that stuff was great. That was a lot of fun to watch, and look, I don't care if that's really Brie Larson singing. I don't know. Nobody said anything about it yet because as we're recording this, most people haven't seen it yet. The general public hasn't seen it yet, just people at the screenings, and that sort of a thing.
And they
But
gave it a horrible rating, or in my opinion, not so great of a rating, which is wild to me.
where did you see that? Is it
I
Rotten
saw,
Tomatoes already?
yeah, I've started to see ratings that are like 54%.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Let
I
me look.
think that
I'm look on Rotten Tomatoes because
Yeah,
that's
when the general public sees it, it'll go one way or the other.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I've definitely seen critics, people that I know, and in some cases people that I like, and I tend to feel like they kind of wrote the review ahead of time. You
Yeah.
know, they made up their mind how they were going to feel about it. You know, yeah, the what it well, you know what? For our visual audience, I will share what I'm looking at over here on Rotten Tomatoes, and we'll peel back behind the curtain. We're recording this, it's Wednesday the 8th, and so it actually comes out tomorrow. But you're all seeing this on Friday night or listening to it afterwards. And what it says, Marvel's first reviews, wacky and energetic, but not for everyone. Critics are largely divided on the latest installment of the MCU, which is alternatively a quote must watch or I love quote meh. But everyone loves Iman Vellani's Kamala Khan, which I think is a nice takeaway
Hmm.
from there. Um, I was thinking about it, and I was even saying to you after we watched the movie, Jeff, I was thinking about, I'm not as hard on some of the movies. You and I saw Eternals together,
Hmm.
and I think that there's some decisions that were made that made it a less accessible movie. Too many characters, too wide a scope, but a story that would have been better served over multiple movies, but they knew that they had to kind of tell it in one. But in the sense of you kind of look at it, you can look at it in phases, but really from a movie going public, we kind of look at it as like post end game, so starting with Black Widow and going from there. And, I think in general, there's something I liked about all of them. And for the most part, I've at least enjoyed them, upon initial viewing. Some of them I haven't gone back to, but I think that a lot of people, you know, we have Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. We have Ant-Man and Quantumania. Those are two of the most divisive. Oh, and let's not forget Thor, Love and Thunder.
I don't even know
So
if that's
those
divisive. I think everybody understands what that or like agrees that was bad.
No, I see my thing
Oh.
about Thor is that it's like you have to look at it as like it's it's the fourth movie, and in the that Thor movie he's saying like, oh yes, a classic Thor adventure, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of what it is. And it has Christian Bale in it, and for me it's like, yeah, it's the only one of these that we've gotten a fourth movie out of is Thor. And I think that it's not great, it's not my favorite, it's not even close to, it's but I'll still say it's not the worst Thor movie, because I will continue to say that that's Dark World, but
I
that's
mean,
just me.
it's hard to not beat that one.
Yeah,
Like or it's hard to beat,
right.
I guess in a bad.
But but in general, people tend to be mixed. I think Guardians 3 for the most part people liked.
Hmm.
Spider-Man No Way Home people really liked. But for like basically all the other ones after Endgame, it's a lot of kind of mixed reviews. And for me, I think if I'm looking at everything that came out after Endgame, I'm not ranking them per se, but I'm putting this basically as like a top 3 with Spider-Man No Way Home and Guardians in terms of the post Endgame. I'm not I'm not ranking 27 movies or whatever it is.
You said
That's
so. You said top three, and there's this Guardians and what else?
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay.
That's the one, the one with Toby and Andrew
Yep.
Garfield.
Yep.
If I'm actually quantifying it, that's probably for me at least my favorite, of the post Endgame movies, because it was just so fun and mind blowing, and all those ways. But I mean, this is way up there, and I think that the key is that it's fun.
Yeah.
It has pretty high stakes. You've got somebody that's trying to, basically extinguish our sun, you know, and it is part of the problem that, we built up to Thanos. And so we're supposed to feel like other villains are equal threats. And look, whatever we get from Kang and dealing with time, I feel like that will feel like a comparable threat.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of just have to look at this differently, in terms of that. But I found the movie to be fun. I think that it had a good balance of humor, clearly putting Kamala Khan, the Iman Vellani version of it, but honestly, any of the Kamala Khan Ms. Marvels, I think would have lightened the mood. And I think it was a good choice. I mean, I think it's a safe bet to say, Jeff, that it's more fun than a lot of what we've gotten recently from the MCU.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, it was I think you tweeted it maybe, or at least you told me you were smiling throughout majority
Yeah.
of the film. And I totally agree. Like it was just fun throughout the whole film. It had great heart. It had all the great comedy that Miss Marvel had in her TV show with the family, and it just grew with Samuel L. Jackson, Tiana Parrish, and Brie Larson. They all like got into it and just added more to it. And it was Samuel L. Jackson as we love to see him. It wasn't the Secret Invasion on
Oh,
the way to death type of Samuel Jackson. He was back cussing, he was shooting people, and he was leading the Avengers or the Marvels. So it was back to what we like to see, and it was fun.
yeah, and I think that's it, it's an important point. We talked about both Ms. Marvel and WandaVision. It's very important to note that there is absolutely no requirement to have seen Secret Invasion before you see this show. And the Skrulls factor in the early part of this movie very heavily.
It's
And it's
wild.
like it's like there's not even a reference, there's nothing. Yeah, that is some of, if not the most disappointing MCU content that we've gotten. Very, very disappointed in that. And, Nick Fury didn't feel like Nick Fury in that. It was
Mm-hmm.
this, like you're saying, this is return to form. This is Nick Fury that we love. It's almost like whatever came down from space for Secret Invasion, that wasn't really him. It was
It,
like,
it's crazy how many A-list actors they brought in for such
yeah.
a not good show. Like the story was just not there, and it was just not good all around.
No, and it also felt like production wise they cut some corners, in terms of just
Hmm.
the product on screen. And really prior to that, the Disney Plus shows usually like looked great. You never felt like they were cheaping out. Like I was really impressed by Falcon and Winter Soldier, just some of the sequences. I was like, they went all out. And it's like Secret Invasion. It's like, well, we're saving money for, I don't know, Daredevil or something. You know what I mean? It was like, let's so yeah, that was very underwhelming. So it's definitely nice to, I don't know, be able to shake the etch a sketch and just go back to the Nick Fury that we really wanted to see, and
Hmm.
I think that it is a fun interaction for the three leads and with Sword. And yes, there's it's like you can't isolate anyone as comic relief in the movie because there are so many characters that provide you know a comedic point of view. We've got Kamala's family, we've got Nick at times, we have people who work there, we have the just ridiculousness of how many Flurkins are in this.
Hmm.
I'm going to be very interested to see, of the people that I know and maybe the people that I talk to on my shows about this movie, how people feel about that. Are they going to be like, and it's so stupid that they all got eaten by the cats? I didn't have any problem with that. That was really fun. I think it was funny. It was very
Yep.
inventive. They established that you're not going to die if that happens. I think that's important. But do you agree with me, Jeff, that if somebody said to you, was like, yeah, they lost me when the cat started eating everyone. It just was too stupid. I don't have to agree with it, but it is one of those things where if somebody says it, I'm like, well, yeah, yeah. You just have
Yeah,
to
man,
roll with
I
it.
I see what you're saying, but like, yeah, yeah, it's like I because it's funny that you said you had some friends that you knew that would like it. One of my good friends that I'm going to see the movie with on Friday, he has 2 cats, and I know he's gonna be dying seeing this movie, just loving all of it. Like so, and I'm not a cat person, but I'm like, I was thinking when I saw this, I don't know how I would do on set. Like that's a lot of cats.
There's a lot
So,
of cats. Yeah,
but yeah, so
exactly.
like it takes you out of the movie in a sense, if you're for good or bad. So it may be a deterring point for people.
Yeah, no, and it'll be interesting to see. And interestingly enough, as I was watching it in keeping in mind, would I be my kids are off on Friday, so the night that people are seeing this. So by the time they see this, I'll have decided that I think I can take my 8-year-old and 6-year-old to this, and very rarely have I even considered that for an MCU movie. But my daughter Lucy really likes Ms. Marvel. It's an animated version of her, but it's part of a like a preschool age show that I've talked about on some of these shows before, called
Mm,
Spidey and His Amazing Friends. So one of the amazing friends is the Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel,
mm,
and she really likes her. And so basically, when it starts, when the movie opens, and it's one of her animated sequences like we got on the show, I was like, all right, I'll have to see. And I was like, I was wondering, is it going to get too scary? Because the villain is definitely somebody that could be scary. But I'm like, it's like compared to other ones, it's almost like 10% of this movie is like scary for kids. I know it's rated PG-13, but I'm
mm-hmm.
like, it. They didn't make it feel very kiddie. No pun intended for the cats we're talking about. Sorry, I'm saying KIDDIE. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like it's not, terrifying. There's not a Thanos at the middle of it. You don't have people disintegrating. People die. But so I am gonna roll the dice. My kids are off from school, and it seems like a good thing to do. I considered for a moment, Jeff, taking my daughter to the press screening, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to see it before I bring her to it. I have to kind of vet it. So you're welcome, basically, is what I'm saying. That I
I'm,
decided to exercise some caution as a parent. But so anyway, I find it interesting that this is a movie that I would be less afraid to have kids watch than some of the other ones. There's a couple of swears in there, but it's not so many. It's speaking of Sam Jackson, it's not snakes on a plane. So,
exactly. There's a little
but
bit less than that.
yeah, a little bit less than that. So, in terms of that overall feel, I'm just sort of wondering, because I'm watching it through that lens, did it feel in any way like they pulled some punches? Not literally, obviously. Or do you feel like no, they told a good story? This is a fine MCU addition, and I just happen to, I don't know, maybe be a bad parent or feel like it's actually it is a little bit more accessible to kids than others.
I think both are true. I think it told a great story. I thought told a fun story with great action, a good villain, and or interesting villain, and also it opened up the door to a wider audience. That's what Kamala Khan does. That's what Miss Marvel's TV show did. That, and I think she just the director took kind of that tone and brought it into this film. But you also have Samuel L. Jackson. You have a lot of adult leads, so there's gonna be a little bit of cussing sometimes, and there's gonna be
Yeah,
some villainous acts. But if you think about it, only one or two of the fight scenes were at night or in a darker ship or darker room. Majority of the biggest fight scene was in the daytime on a ship and over water. So it was a very bright fight. It was very fun and thematic. Like you got to see the girls having fun learning their powers together. It was way more female empowerment and fighting together than it was we're gonna take down an evil bad. And just bringing up how it's different than Thanos. I like how this villain was just kind of specific to this film, specific to this superhero, because not every villain is gonna be trying to take over the world. Not every villain is A-list villains. There are C-list villains that you have to sometimes take down. There's B-list villains you have to sometimes take down, and there's villains that are specific to different superheroes. So This is just another story and a fun story at that.
Yeah, I mean, you basically isolated the whole point of the second Into the Spider Verse movie is just because you might feel like you can dismiss some of the threats out there, it doesn't mean that they can't still get to you and prove a problem. You know what I mean? So,
Very true.
yeah, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I think that it I don't know. Like you're right. It is what I tweeted that it's like most of the time that I'm watching it, especially like the first two acts, it's a lot of smiling, it's a lot of laughing. It's very fun to watch them together. And look, just the sequence where they're kind of training together about like, oh, when I use the powers, you switch here, and just trying to figure out how to coordinate that. Yeah, some of it's silly, walking with the books on their head, the juggling, but I'm like, it's all good, it's all fun, to kind of
Hmm.
watch that. Those were some of the most fun sequences in the movie, I think, because no one's in any real peril there. They're just trying to figure out not so much their powers, but how they can work together and use them. You know what I mean, Joe?
No, 100%. And I was about to say, your favorite part was the books. Mine was the jump rope because
Yeah,
it,
that's
it was
right.
really cool transitions to see how they were able to fit right in the same position of each other, and then switching the book and the apple without it falling. It was a fun transition, fun little clip. And then I just saw a clip of the director on the red carpet because they had a red carpet in Vegas last
Yeah.
night. And she was saying that was one of her favorite scenes to shoot, is just the interactions between the ladies when they're learning how to use their powers together. So, I mean, it was fun for her to shoot, and it was obviously fun for us to watch, and it just translated well.
Yeah, and it's interesting you're talking about
This
the red carpet in Vegas. It's interesting because the timing of the agreement that ended the SAG after strike coming the day before the movie comes out. Do you almost feel like possibly Bob Iger was like, whatever we got to do to be able to get Brie Larson on Jimmy Kimmel Friday night, let's do it. Which
Yep.
could have happened. You and I were, I'm predicting the future a little bit, but we'll talk about it in a future episode if they're able to get some last minute promotion. It's oh, look, Amon Villani's on Jimmy Kimmel having a pie eating contest, or one of those, or whatever kind of a three-legged race or something that Jimmy does. But it'll be
Oh,
interesting to see if they're able to kind of get out there. And did they have like a plan for like, all right, if we get it, if we can have our SAG after members get out there and help promote this movie, it would go a long way. But it's interesting to kind of think about, actually, as we're talking. Again, because of things like this, we have to kind of let people know that we did record this on Wednesday, which this
yeah.
happened a few hours ago. Jeff was actually the one who let me know that the SAG after strike was over, so I appreciate that. We had been talking about it before the movie. That was and it didn't feel like it was about to be over, but there it is. So
Yeah, it's
I go ahead. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, I mean, just to emphasize what you're saying, is it's pretty wild that, and I'm happy that it is over. I mean, as people probably know, I work in marketing for film. So with this being over, there's going to be a lot of different press and talent opportunities, like you just mentioned. So it's busy on our side. It's about to be very busy for the talent on their side as well. It's gonna be everything from Good Morning America to the Tonight Show on Friday, and it's gonna be wild because every movie and their mother is going to be trying to get some TV spot.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
gonna
and the
it's
interesting
crazy.
thing, obviously, the fact that Disney is this sort of conglomerate. So it's almost like, hey, look, Sam Jackson's here on College Game Day on ESPN. What's going on, Sam? Oh, I'm just here about to go see my new movie. Just
Yep.
th- when Disney Plus first rolled out, I just the amount of time they spent on Good Morning America and ESPN and like literally everything. They found ways to have segments. There were stormtroopers in the studio on ESPN. I'm like, all right, I get it, but come on, let's
Yep.
let's let's try to dial it back a little bit. So
It's
yeah, look, and it's like, yeah, there's only really the day or two before the weekend it opens, but this movie's going to stay in theaters, and I don't know, it's almost like there was so much success and acclaim for the MCU really through Endgame that it's almost like turned into a sport of boy, is this movie gonna bomb? You
yep.
know? And it's like people celebrating the reviews that come in, and like I said, I don't know. I mean, it's I feel like people have their minds made up about Brie Larson, which I think is unfortunate because I think that even if people didn't like her portrayal in this movie, she's a tremendous actress. She's obviously been in some great films with huge range, of stuff that she's been in. But I feel like she's really kind of gotten much more comfortable as the character of Carol Danvers, and uh it's believable that she's had these abilities for like 30 years. And but yeah, let's keep in mind that however old Carol Danvers is supposed to be, yeah, she looks great. So what is she, like in her 50s? I guess if because she was already in the military,
Hmm.
so uh, but obviously sometimes your abilities, I guess, could slow the aging. But
And she's
but
got, I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
50 or older because she's Tiana Parrish's aunt in this,
Yeah,
or Monica Rambeau's aunt in this. So it's like she might be pushing 60 to 70 if she's the same age as her mother.
it's a great point. It is a great point, but yeah, look, it is just fun to watch. And I I was, I was trying to explain to somebody that I wasn't pleasantly surprised by it because I continued to feel good about it. I didn't watch the last trailer because that debuted on Monday. You and I talked a little bit about that in the theater. It debuted the night before the actual screening that we went to. And I get an email from Disney Press, and so I knew there was another trailer. I'm like, well, why am I going to watch it? I'm going to see the movie tomorrow. And I guess I was glad that I didn't watch it because you didn't get like a major spoiler, but there's a character in that trailer that you didn't know was in this movie until you saw that final trailer, right, Jeff?
Yeah, so I was tweeting, yeah, on Monday, oh, I'm definitely not watching that trailer. I'm gonna go into the movie with no spoilers, no nothing.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Guess what I did? I went back on Twitter and I found a spoiler without looking. So I was happy to find out that Valkyrie is gonna be in the film. And
Yeah.
as soon as I saw her face, I just clicked out of the screen. So I don't even remember what the scene was that she was in. I mean, she was only in like one or two scenes, but like I couldn't even tell you what the screenshot was because that's how quickly I got off Twitter.
Yeah.
And but I just knew it was her, and I was assuming that's who it was because everybody was talking about the big cameo that you're gonna see in this trailer. But
Yeah.
that was not the biggest cameo that we saw in the film.
No, honestly, it's like even before the credits, there's another cameo that I think is more interesting than that. So
Mhm.
it's almost like they're trying to throw you off the scent, as it were.
Oh
They're
yeah.
they're just trying to have you not know what's coming, not be ready for it in that respect. And yeah, I think that they do a good job, and it's nice that Valkyrie is able to help. I think that I feel like in future conversations we might have a little bit of focus on sort of the greeting that Valkyrie and Carol have. I mean, it's very friendly. I think people are going
Hmm.
to read in. I think people are going to read into it as this movie goes along because look, there's a vocal but not large segment that will already be gunning for this movie because they have feelings about Brie Larson because of what she speaks up for and opinions she shares about her personal life. And then also, anytime that a character that's ever been male, even though Carol Danvers has been around in Marvel Comics since I think 1969, She was Ms. Marvel in the 70s. So this character's been around for a while, but the idea that that there's female-led superheroes, and she's one of like the most established, one of the I don't know about the best, but I mean, she has such a rich story. There have been so many different versions of her.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are so many people that are just looking for things that bother them, about her, and our visual audience is seeing a wonderful cover for Ms. Marvel #1 from I believe 1976. So this is when she got her own book, and it's a very 70s look. I think they needed to
Mhm.
redesign that costume a little bit. They did cover her stomach up at one point, and she eventually has a Dave Cockrum designed costume that's very similar to what Kamala Khan wears, at least in the TV series. But I don't know. It's a character that has this interesting power set. She has this connection to Captain Marvel, but this is, I think, a movie with a pretty big target on it. And so this is a roundabout way to say that people are going to be looking for you know, any kind of statements, supports of beliefs that they feel Disney, I mean, there are people that spoke out against the Lightyear movie, the Buzz Lightyear movie that they did a few years ago because there were gay characters in the center. And there's nothing to this, and the only reason I'm talking about it now is because this is before we're talking before the movie's out and before everybody sees it. And I'm just kind of wondering, do you think, you spend time on Twitter, maybe you spend time in better corners of Twitter than I do, but do you feel like we're gonna get a little bit bombarded by this narrative of, well, this movie's too woke, basically, is what people are likely to say.
I mean, I would be surprised if a couple trolls said that on Twitter, but I think
Sure.
the rounding sound is going to be trying to ship them rather than trying to joke about the movie being too woke. I mean, that's like probably one that's a small scene out of the movies for them to say the whole movie is woke, but people on Twitter will definitely reach and they will find that one reason to say the whole movie is how they feel. So I definitely agree with that. But I see like at least my side of Twitter, they're gonna be like, oh, we need more of Valkyrie and
And
Captain Marvel. We
Carol.
need more
Yeah, yeah.
like together, and she better go to what is it called? New something.
New Asgard. Yeah, yeah,
New.
yeah. Yeah,
I always
yeah.
say New Amsterdam. I'm like that is not it.
Well, no, no, no. But
New Asgard.
maybe a movie where they spend a weekend in just regular Amsterdam, and they don't even use their powers, It's yeah, and I think that anyone who has that takeaway from this movie, it's again like you were definitely looking for that. You wanted that complaint because look, it's a movie I'm saying, and we'll see in future conversations if I regret bringing my kids to it. My 8-year-old's going to be fine no matter what.
Yeah.
He saw the most recent Transformers movie. He's fine. But it'll be interesting to see how my daughter takes it. But she does really like Kamal Khan, so it's almost like there's Kamala Khan plus kitty cats equals not quite as good as Barbie, but still up there. But I'll let everybody know what she thinks
Yeah.
after
But
she sees it.
the one part I'm worried about is when Kamala Khan is not in the greatest position and kind of gets her
Yeah,
head.
and I was worried about that scene too because that's the one and only time that there's times where she could get hurt, but that's like actual peril,
Mhm.
and I believe me, that's that it's a very impactful scene because that hammer is basically pushing down on her head, and Carol realizes it's what she's told, that you're not going to be able to move fast enough like to
Mhm.
stop this. So it was a little bit anticlimactic though, that it's basically she gets gutted on, I don't know, a shard of glass or something. I'm not quite sure what that was, you
Yeah, but
know?
she didn't die because of that though. Like she got back up and started fighting again.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point.
And then I think
Yeah.
she got like, didn't she? How did she die after that? Because she did get back up, and I think she didn't. I don't remember. Because how did she die after that? They beat. I mean, they beat her up again, obviously, and took the staff. But I just cannot remember. I know for a fact that when she got back up, she
Yeah.
stole the staff back. I just can't remember how they fought her, how they got her again.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean that is that I guess you're right. That was the moment where we're supposed to think she was dead, but
Either way,
it's
it
not
still wasn't
actually.
like it wasn't a rememberable death. To your point though.
Yeah. But and look, it's tough to, we've sort of danced around the character's name is Darben, but they
Mhm.
don't do a good job telling us that. I did have to look it up. It's for our visual
Oh,
audience. You'll notice I put my glasses on because I was like, oh, I got to get this right. I have to
I
see.
had it right up here, and I also just knew it. I just didn't say their name. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I couldn't remember it, so
All good.
that's
But
that's
I mean,
just
she
me.
wasn't that,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, she wasn't that memorable. Like she has some good moments, but like it still wasn't all the way there. I've heard that feedback as well that the villain wasn't amazing, but it's unfortunate. Isn't
Yeah,
she
that's
married?
that's a whole section. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
No,
I'll just say quickly. Uh, that's a whole section on the Rotten Tomatoes. Is there a problem with the villain? So they've isolated some reviews that said that. But what were you going to say?
I don't want to say something that I found out on Twitter again. I'm gonna
Oh,
look it up real quick because um I think that's Tom Hiddleston's wife.
that actress.
Yeah. Yeah,
So her
they're
name is
on
her
the
name is Zaw Ashton.
they've been on the red carpet together. I don't know if they're still married. I haven't talked to them recently. They've been on the red carpet together. They were
But
married.
you guys used to be so close. What's happened? Did you have some problems with season 2 of Loki, so he doesn't want to talk to you anymore?
They shot it in London. I was only there for a couple weeks, and then I had to come back. So it's just been a long time since we caught up. But
So according to IMDb, she's expecting her first baby with Tom Hiddleston, and she's engaged to Tom Hiddleston. Now this could be
okay.
old. So whether look, I hope they're happy together, and I hope they've had 3 kids since then. But at some point, you're right though. They are certainly together, or
Yeah,
have been together. So that's a great point. I did not know that about her. So yeah, that's
yes. Both their projects are coming out at the same time.
yeah, it's a
Loki
busy
season.
week for them. Yeah,
Yeah,
her movie comes out, the Loki season finale basically premiered the same day. I did like that they kind of showed why it was personal. There was sort of the flashback to the
yeah.
scene from Captain Marvel where she destroys the Supreme Intelligence, and we see her basically, drop a bunch of bricks on top of her. So it's like, all right, well, I guess you got reason to be pissed at Carol,
Without a
the
doubt.
Annihilator.
Yeah. I mean, like it was quick, but like it made sense, and like we moved on, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like it was a short backstory, but like it was everything that we needed. So like I thought she was an okay bad guy villain
Yeah,
in
I
that
thought
sense,
so too.
but I mean still I've heard otherwise since then.
Yeah, and we should take a moment and talk about Park So Joon, who is the one who plays the prince. And
Yes.
there was a reaction in the theater where people knew who he was, and I was not intending to generalize. It was the kind of reaction I'm like, oh, is he like in a K-pop band? But he is in the movie Parasite,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also on a Netflix series. So people know him from a few different things, but he is a musician. Like where he's in a music video at least. So there's some kind of fascination with this guy, I guess. And there was a television series called She Was Pretty, which I don't know. My in-laws watch so many K
Mm-mm.
dramas, Korean dramas, like to the extent that it messed up our algorithm on Netflix. It's like all it recommends to us. I'm like, oh, come on. You
So
know, I'm I'm looking for documentaries and things, and I'm like, I can't find any of it. You know, so
guess
um,
how many followers he has on Instagram?
10 million.
25.6 million.
Jeez.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's why the ladies
now I understand the reaction clearly,
exactly
and
we get
he
it.
was. I thought his interactions with Carol, I thought were great. I thought that was a good character. It was kind of interesting, and you know, I think you know, he fought valiantly,
Mhm.
and he provided our team with some new costumes, and I like this sort of brighter, shinier version of Kamala's costume,
Without
and
a doubt.
they give her the scarf, which is something that Carol had as Ms. Marvel, at least in the comic books in the late '70s. She kind of used that it was more of like a sash around her waist, but she would use it a lot. So it's a nice touch, you know what I mean? And I think that those kinds of the attention to those kind of details, I think, are the little things that really reach out and touch kind of the fanboys and fangirls and fan people. I you know, look, fanboys, I know it sounds like a gender term, but I mean fanboying and fan, you know, it's everybody is able to be a fanboy, you
It's
know.
like saying,
It's
"Hey guys, come over here."
yeah,
It's talking
I
it's general.
yeah, right, exactly. Fanboys is the y'all of nerddom.
Exactly.
Well, we've got a couple of appearances to talk about late in the movie. And I so this is the point where we'll say a couple of times, both Jeff and I have seen the Marvels. We are talking about it. People are seeing this more than 24 hours after they've been able to go into the theater to see it. So we're assuming that this episode is for people who have already seen it. So we're going to talk about all the spoilers. The first spoiler is not as big as the other one, but it was still very cool to see. Spoiler now, Kate Bishop. I love
Well,
that, you know, and you know, we saw the dog, we saw her. I really liked the Kamala Khan hat over her face playing Nick Fury. I thought it was a great touch, and you know, she knows everything about the, you know, the clear iPads now, the clear tablets, and you know, and Kate's having the same reaction. It's like, wait, that's all that stuff on me. And I like the idea is like, you're not the only kid in town, and Kate Bishop's like, I'm 22, you know.
yeah,
So I loved that scene because it directly sends up the, you know, the running joke on for a lot of people, and we would talk a lot about this on my podcast, the Blackcast, that it seemed for a little while there that every Marvel movie ended with Sam Jackson walking in like, well, if it isn't Tony Stark or, you know, whoever, you know, and
yeah.
trying to strong arm General Ross in the Incredible Hulk, you know, things like that. It was always like that, and so this was perfect. It was spot on, and they mentioned Cassie Lang. They mentioned, you know, did you know Ant-Man had a daughter? And I'm like, all right, whether they call this Young Avengers or there's a couple of different things that it can be.
Yep.
Very exciting. How did you feel when we got to see Kate Bishop walk through that door, Jeff?
I think exciting is a word. I was thrown I was surprised to see that it was gonna happen like that. I knew they were kind of like giving us Easter eggs and stuff, but I kept hearing out the rumor mill like, okay, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna feed into that IP, and the Young Avengers are gonna move away from it because I just love to feed into the rumor mills.
Sure,
But
yeah.
with Bob Iger speaking not too long ago about how he loves the Avengers IP and we need to move back to it, guess what? Young Avengers is an Avengers IP. West Coast Avengers is an Avengers IP. There's other Avenger groups that have like younger groups or younger members. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what they become and just the dynamic between the younger superheroes because you got to see a lot more hijinks. Maybe Spider-Man pops up and becomes a mini. He gets to play around with the young Avengers and the adult Avengers, and then see how that dynamic is. Because just how Cassie Lang said that I'm 22, she's gonna want to be a real Avenger, and she sees
Yeah.
Spider-Man slinging along with them, and he's younger. So how's that gonna work out?
Yeah. No, so it's like, look, if that had been the mid-credit scene or an end credit scene, that still would have been fun. And you know what? Maybe in an earlier cut of the movie, or maybe in an earlier draft of the script, that was kind of the end, was getting to see that. It's very exciting. It gets us thinking about the future. But then really going for the level of excitement, having us really focused on the future. And again, this is the big spoiler. I
Mm.
got a text earlier today from my buddy Eric Nagel, who people know as E-Rock from the old Opie and Anthony show and other places. And he texted me and he's like, is a spoiler the X-Men? And I'm like, I don't really want to answer that. Because he's like, I think some asshole on Twitter spoiled it for me. I'm like, I hope that whatever you saw was a fake spoiler. I'm trying to like manage his
Hmm.
expectations. I'm trying not to lie to him either, but I'm also like, oh, don't ask me that. I don't want to ruin it
That,
for you. You know.
no, yeah,
But if somebody did post images, and after I got home, I did do a little search. I wanted to see if it was out there, and the only thing I saw was a fake tweet. Like Kelsey Grammer hasn't tweeted since like 2021, but
hmm
somebody made what looked like a screenshot of a tweet where he said that, well, even though I made this appearance, I guess Kevin Feige has decided not to have me. It's a whole thing, and I'm like, well, that's not real, you know. So
yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe people like Eric who had some spoilers, they saw something that maybe was different. Maybe he thinks all the X-Men are going to be there, but I was not expecting this. Now, there's always a part of me. I thought we were going to get this in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness when you're
Yeah.
dealing with other realities. I didn't expect the Marvels to be the movie where we had the crack, where a character gets stuck in the wrong reality. And then we are treated to an image of Kelsey Grammer as Hank McCoy, one
hmm
time Avenger, but usually associated with the X-Men. And I wanted to bring up an image of the animated X-Men series Beast, but I don't want to share that in this one because I think people might come across the channel while it's streaming, and I don't want anybody to see the Beast who has no idea that he's going to be in it. Because I don't know about you, Jeff. I had heard a rumbling at some point that maybe he was going to be in Deadpool, but I
Okay.
was not expecting to see him last night when I saw the Marvels. What did you think? We hear him first. We hear him talking.
Yeah. So I think I might have read something that said Monica was going to be in a different Earth, or gonna be in a different universe, or the end scene was gonna be about Monica. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, so we're gonna see how that goes. But I had no idea where she'd be. I had no idea. I definitely did not expect it to be X-Men because I didn't hear about any X-Men properties coming out. I mean, we all we know is a Fantastic Four. So I was like, maybe we're gonna meet Reed Richards.
Yeah.
I really thought like if that was the person, it was gonna be that. I was not expecting Hank McCoy, and then also we heard Professor X. So like
Well,
we
he mentions Charles. Do we hear
oh
his voice? He
I,
says
oh
like, I'll have to
yeah,
check with Charles. Do we hear? Because
okay,
there was a very vocal reaction in our theater.
yeah,
So,
very true.
um, yeah,
And
and he references him. So
and then also like not only do we have like Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel, but and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm reading this. This is like the binary Captain Marvel. Is that
yeah, so Binary is a version of Carol Danvers, who Carol Danvers loses her Ms. Marvel powers to Rogue. So the character Rogue has some similar abilities, in the sense that this is, of course, in the comic books I'm talking about. Sorry, in Avengers Annual 10, she loses her abilities because when Rogue touches you, she takes your powers. So she exists as kind of like an unpowered character in the X-Men for a lot of the time, because writer Chris Claremont was a big fan of the character. He feels like they really did her wrong in a story that took place in Avengers number 200. That's a different tale for a different time, different episode. But so he kind of reclaimed the character and did his best to kind of bring her back. And part of that was giving her abilities back. But by doing that, she wasn't Ms. Marvel anymore. And, she takes on some other names in the years that follow. But this idea of her being binary was this super powerful version of the character. It is the power set that we kind of see her with in the movies. It's fairly representative of that. So yeah, it is something that I heard. And the interesting thing is she's wearing both of Kamala's bangles in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Maria Rambeau is wearing it, which I thought was interesting. But just to give our visual audience a little glimpse for what binary looked like. So, she's got like the flaming hair, which is a touch to the character that we do kind of get when she has the helmet on. But yeah, so this was from 1981, Uncanny X-Men 164. She spent some time traveling in space with the space pirates, the Starjammers. So the idea that we can get some binary level powers from any character will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Kamala's bangles would exist in another reality. Somebody else would end up with them. So there's so much to explore, and yeah, there's no X-Men stuff on the publicly announced schedule, but I'm wondering if sometime in the month of November they might give us a hint of something that might be coming, a story that will very much tie them into the MCU. And look, having them exist in another reality and having them already be established, it saves us from getting an origin movie. I like the way that we got to visit with our two previous Spider-Man in No Way Home, like we talked about. It was like, yeah, these stories happened, they really mattered, but I can't imagine that they would do that with either iteration of the Fantastic Four. It's almost like, no,
Yeah.
no, Fantastic Four, we have to start over. We can't, you can't have the Human Torch looking just like Captain America, first of all. But
Mm-mm. Not at all.
so yeah, so there's so many questions, but the good kind, like the excitement. We can do whole episodes about what do we think this scene means, what do we think is next, and honestly, we probably will do whole shows like that. So I hope that most people see that, not having any kind of hint of spoiler about it, because to naturally have that unfold for us, I think was great. I'd already enjoyed the movie. Like I said, if it had ended with the Kate Bishop scene, I still would have been like, wow, that was great. I had a lot of fun. But then this is like next level, like mind blowing stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. 100%. No, it was great to see, and just kind of to your point, how you said this was on the Chris Claremont run. Nia, the director, was actually been in the press run because she's actually able to do the press run.
Right. Yes.
She mentioned Chris's name as like some of her inspiration into the story of what she was doing. So just to see the binary version of Captain Marvel and so many other like references from his stories is just cool to see.
Yeah, exactly. And for our Geekscape friends, you can look back a little ways for the episode of the Geekscape Book Club where we did discuss God Loves Man Kills with Chris Claremont himself. And for people who follow me closely, you know that I've talked to him many times over the last decade, and it's always a thrill. I'm giving him time to see this movie before I call in another ask. I usually try not to ask twice in the same year, but
Mm.
this is at the end of the year. That was at the beginning of the year. So I'll call in my 2024 request now to see if we can talk to him about this movie. But whatever the case, we have many more friends to get reactions to as they see it. But Jeff, I want to give you an opportunity for any final thoughts. Just as you talked about the movie, obviously we've spent more than an hour talking about that. It was fun and we enjoyed it. I hope people sit in the chair with their bucket of popcorn that they weren't in too much traffic to not be able to get. That's the biggest tragedy. Although you did get to bring it home, didn't you? I'm just
Yeah.
remembering. You did get, yeah. So you got to have popcorn on the way home. So it was all right. But and just sit down and go like, that was fun. I hope people are willing to sit down and have fun. I was on a text thread with a group of people who one of them was like, "Oh, I wish I liked the Ms. Marvel TV show more." I'm like, honestly, you don't have to. Whatever degree you liked it, you could still like this movie. But
Hmm.
anything that you want to make sure that sums up your thoughts before we wrap this up, Jeff?
I think it was just an exciting MCU movie, and it is gonna excite the fans for future projects. And there's a lot of doubters. There's a lot of talk around there, even from some of the Marvel's biggest promoters or outlets in Variety, which is kind of crazy that they're coming out with the harshest critics. But even with all that, MCU is still coming out with some great projects. And this woman-led project was a fun ride, and it's not just for women; it's for everybody. That was it. I mean,
Yeah, no.
fun
I
ride.
think yeah, I think everybody can have fun with this, and the fact that I'm even considering bringing a 6-year-old to it will tell you that it is fun for almost all ages. Yes, it's PG-13, so there's some kids who it might be a bit much for, but use your discretion. I would say always see it first. Don't
Yep.
don't don't bring a kid to a PG-13 movie, but without knowing what it is what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about this and be part of our first reaction episode here. There will be more conversations about the Marvels here on Geekscape, including next Wednesday. I believe we'll be doing it at noon Pacific, which is 3 p.m. Eastern. And that date is November 15th. It's kind of a hybrid of one of our regular time slots. So that'll be a live show where all of you can chime in and share your thoughts. So everyone who is watching this, and I hope everybody was participating in the chat, I'll do my best to kind of pop in for a little bit so that people can interact. But that's when everybody can tune in and share their thoughts. And we'll have some familiar faces, but maybe even some new ones. The end of the SAG after strike, Jeff, has opened a lot of doors for people who haven't been able to come on any of the shows that I do for a while, actually. So
Mhm.
I'm excited. And I'm glad that we got to check out the movie together because, you and I, we were saying earlier, we didn't hate the Eternals, but there were problems with it.
Yeah.
And this was a lot more fun. I'm like, all right, I feel like I brought you to a better one this time.
Most definitely. No, it was great to, like I said earlier, it was great to catch up, and it was great to watch a great MC movie, a really fun MCU movie.
Yeah, and obviously, if people want to keep in touch with you, they want to continue the conversation, they want to see any videos of realtor Jeff walking around property that he can't own, but perhaps you might be interested in, where can they find you?
Look, if you guys are trying to create your opportunities through real estate or just watch some films, you can follow me at Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms. I appreciate it as always.
And of course, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. Please subscribe on Geekscape to all the tremendous content, including Marvel Movie Talk. Earlier today, we wrapped up the second season of Loki, and we did an episode recapping each of them along there. So you can find it there. You can find the audio versions. And I do have my own personal podcast, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. You can find that wherever podcasts are found. But that is all the time we have for now. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!